Hello, Hockey World. It is Wednesday, May 21st, 2014.
I'm Michael Agello.
And I am Eklund, and you're watching the Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzzcast.com. Yes, you've requested it. You've asked for it. We finally are bringing it to you. The Mike and X Show. Just the two of us. No screwing around. No more women. No more Canadians. So we are set. I'm really psyched. I hope you guys are psyched too. How you doing, Mike?
Pretty good. Anti-Canadian. There you go. That'll help. I'm doing well, Ak. Thanks.
Always. Always. You have to be. In my world, you have to be anti-Canadian, unfortunately. But that's not true. I'm just kidding around, guys. But yeah, no more Canadians. Anyway, we've got a lot going on today, and we're happy that you've joined us. So what we want to do is we're going to start with this. We're going to actually simulate the game between the Hawks and the Kings, and then talk about it. So we'll start it up right now because those of you guys, we found out the other day that you really like simulations because we did a simulation and you came out in droves to watch it, even though many of you mocked it. But here's the game. We're going to get it going here. We got the. This is going to be a good one. See what happens here, and we'll come back to that as is. But Mike, let's get right to it. What are your thoughts on tonight's game? This is as must a game as you can get early on for me. But what are your thoughts here?
Well, I mean, Chicago didn't really seem fazed by LA in Game 1. LA was coming off, the second of 7-game series against Anaheim. Had to quickly turn around, head to Chicago, and I think looked fatigued in the third period, even though they put out I think it was 17 shots in the second period against Corey Crawford, who played very well in Game 1. The Kings do get an extra day of rest coming into this game. They obviously need Jonathan Quick to be Jonathan Quick and stand on his head. They need to get some offense going against the Blackhawks, and they need to, if they can, limit the damage that Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane usually do to them, and that's easier said than done. But if they have a chance of splitting in Chicago and going back 1-1 to Los Angeles, that's what they're going to need to do.
Yeah, and I mean, we're looking at in this round, and usually in the conference finals by this point, it does become that. It does become stars have to be stars, right? And I think we're seeing it in Montreal as well, and we're seeing it here. And something about the Kings, though, to me. And we're going to have Matt Barry on tomorrow, by the way, which is going to be great. He's a great Kings guy. I talk Kings, and last time he was on the show, he was telling us how the Kings were down 2-0. So it could be interesting tomorrow because Kings could be down 2-0 as well. Last time he was in the show, the Kings were down 2-0 to the Sharks. He had just talked about how the Sharks were going to sweep the Kings, and the Kings were done. This was going to be finished, so we're definitely going to have some fun with it. Tomorrow, if he's down.
I'm gonna have to talk to Matt that because I took San Jose Sharks in my hockey pool, and I was depending on it after his proclamation that the Sharks would sweep the Kings. I was. Oh,
that's funny. So, by the way, on this game that I'm simulating here, if you can tell, I'm getting a better quality. I've chosen to use the Kings, and the Kings had just scored as I went to that. By the way, Jeff Carter. I've chosen to use the Kings' old gold jerseys just for the heck of it because I like them a lot better. I mean, to me, this was the first jersey I owned. The first NHL jersey I owned was that Kings jersey. They're awesome jerseys.
The Triple Crown line jerseys, the yellow and purple.
Oh yeah, for sure. That was the time, right? So so here we go. Kings are up 1-0 already. Jeff Carter looking in all his glory right there. Puts one in, and these simulations have been scaringly accurate. Or really, really wrong. Like they actually there's no in between with these. They've either been almost exactly the same or exactly opposite. Like we had a blowout. The Ducks blew the Kings out, if you remember, in Game 7 on our simulation, and of course the Kings blew out the Ducks. So
I think the defensive controls were off on that game, Mac. I mean, if 8-7. I mean,
Yeah. I may have to do some tweaking on that. I agree with you. There's a little too much, and as we speak, the Hawks have tied it. So there's a lot of scoring in these games, but we may have to do some tweaking on that eventually. That would be Brandon Saad, who this game loves. He scores a lot of goals for this game. Anyway, this is what I can't help but think about the Kings, Mike. I can't help but think the Kings don't win until they have to. They seem to have many levels. And that, you know what's funny is they really have taken on the characteristics of Jeff Carter in a lot of ways, because Jeff Carter was this way as a player. He was as good as anybody on the ice when he wanted to be, and he could dominate a game. That he could be the best player on the ice in a game where they were playing against Crosby and Malkin in Philadelphia. He could be the best player out there, but not always and not all the time. And the Kings sort of have that same characteristic. I think down 1-0 to the Kings is like the equivalent of a hangnail.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, they were down 3-0 to San Jose, had their backs against the wall, win 4 straight, and then against Anaheim, they win the first 2, they lose the next 3. Backs are against the wall, and then they come back and win games 6 and 7. Now, the problem here is Chicago. Once they get their hands around your throat, you're dead.
Yeah.
It's not like San Jose. It's not like Anaheim, teams who have had trouble closing over the years.
Right.
The Blackhawks are assassins. They get their hands on you, you are done. So there should be proper motivation here by Darryl Sutter and within the core of that team that they're, in a way, their backs are against the wall. Now, obviously, if they lose tonight, they're down 2-0. They haven't lost a home game yet, but they don't have home ice. So if it's a hold serve type of situation, you're not in a good advantage there. So they better win one of these games, and I would say tonight's the best chance for them to do it, coming off a couple days of rest.
This is the game, yeah. This is the game. If they're and the problem with playing the way that the Kings play, which is really risky hockey by not really picking it up or so until games 3 and 4 of the series, is that if you drop a couple games in the playoffs, there's always going to be that stupid game you lose that you shouldn't have lost. And you could sit there and you say, oh yeah, we can win, because every team can win on any night, but there's going to be that stupid game, and that's what makes it so hard to come back from 3-1 or 3-0. I mean, there's going to be that game, and so if you lose those games early on, that margin for error is gone. And what's happening here is the Kings are good at playing that, and like you said, I mean, there's an incredible stat that the Hawks have won like game 5 and 6 in every series forever now. Josh Rimmer, how are you?
How are you guys doing?
Good. Josh Rimmer joining us from Toronto. Thanks for getting in.
Yeah, no problem. I had to race home from my kids' school, so a lot of fun.
Well,
I hear you.
Just ignore all that anti-Canadian stuff we just said.
Yeah, it was nothing. We didn't talk about that.
Thanks, guys.
I just said, it's nice to do a show without a girl and without a chick and without a Canadian. I thought that was pretty fun. So that's my opinion.
Fine, I'm leaving.
Yeah. No, Josh, I have to. We're talking a little bit about Kings talks, and then we got to get into something because you have some props coming to you, my friend. But we're talking about the Kings Hawks. But first off, I do want to mention, if those of you who follow the show from show to show, I'm really big on continuity from one show to the other, to actually having some part of a show in each show. Like for example, the Stanley Cup has been moved to my right side. For what it's worth. But what's really important in this show is what I've done up here. Thing? What's up here, Josh? You got it? You see it? That would be Missile Command.
No idea what that is.
Last time Mike was talking about one of his favorite games of all time, Missile Command, and yeah, that's Missile Command. So, which is available now on the iPad, and the Atari app has an amazing app with all these games on it. So that's Missile Command. And Missile Command is a fun game. I can see why you would like that, Mike. It's very much, it's like a putting out fires type game.
Yeah. I've always had a thing for nuclear war.
Awesome. This is devastation for sure. So, and we're also simulating this game, Josh, as well. We put the Kings and Blackhawks. I put the Kings in their old jerseys because they're just way cooler than their new jerseys.
Now we're simulating with ice hockey from Nintendo?
Yes, we're simulating with ice hockey from Nintendo as well on the bottom there.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see.
But up here we have the Kings and Hawks in there in all their glory, 1-1 right now. And we were talking about, Josh, and I'd like to get your opinion on this, is my feeling that the Kings sort of reflect Jeff Carter's personality, and that is that at times they can be the best thing ever. Carter can be the best player on the ice. Remember the World Juniors in 2008? He was the best player on the ice in a junior tournament that was really stacked with talent. There were games that he rocked it. I remember in Philly, there were games we play against Crosby and Malkin where Carter would be the best player on the ice, and then there were games where he would disappear, of course. And the Kings sort of have that ability where they I think that losing game one to them is like a hangnail. And they even tonight. I don't think that I think at this point to them, and we were saying that's a dangerous game to play with Chicago. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. And Jeff Carter, I mean, I followed his career a lot. In Columbus, he didn't do anything, but prior to that in Philadelphia, he had that one huge year, Eck.
Yeah.
What would you have, 80, 90 points? I don't know if he'll ever do that again because he's a shoot first. He's not much of an assist guy, but he would get assists on his shots that would go, rebound, and he'd get an assist on that or whatever.
Yeah.
But, Jeff Carter, when he's hot, he is on fire. I mean, like you said, the Olympics, I mean, he came out of his shell and was scoring all these goals and was a big reason why Team Canada won gold over in Sochi. I mean, this guy can really actually frustrate you quite a bit, Ek, because he'll disappear for those long time. Like I remember, was it 2 years ago? I think he went like 20 or 25 games without a goal, and then after that he went like 25 straight games with a goal.
Yeah.
I mean, he can really frustrate you, but you can also really excite you.
He is one of those guys, and I mean, in Philly, we always to me, he reminded me a lot, and some people disagree, and you guys would be better. You especially, I mean, both of you would be really, really good at telling me whether this is right or not. But Carter always reminded me of Matt Sundin to a degree.
Yeah.
In that he is as I saw Sundin at least, as a power center, not a playmaking center, but a scoring center. Mm-hmm. Who and when I always thought that there were two Jeff Carters. There was a Jeff Carter that played like Matt Sundin, and that Jeff Carter was awesome. And then there was a Jeff Carter who played like Joe Thornton, and that Jeff Carter was terrible. And what happened with Thornton, when he played like Thornton, is when Carter became a perimeter guy, and which has always been Joe Thornton's. Joe Thornton's an awesome perimeter player. He's a great passer, but he's a big guy. In Boston, that didn't fly. If you're big, you got to go to the net. In San Jose, it's worked fine. Or I guess fine is relative, but it has worked. Jeff Carter has those two different players in him. The Kings have two different personalities as well. The Kings have this personality that is just challenges you every inch of the ice. Or they tried, and in game one, I did finally get to watch it. Like I had at a game at a big soccer game with my daughter that I was coaching. I finally went back and watched it. In game one, to me, what the Kings did was they tried to play the Hawks game. And they're not going to win, Mike, when they do that.
No. Well, to your point about Carter and the comparison to Sundin, I mean, Sundin was a converted winger. He was a power forward, mostly in Quebec. When he got traded over to Toronto, he made the heir apparent to Doug Gilmour and was put at center. He was an average playmaker, but throughout his career, he was more of a, as you said, scoring center.
Yeah.
To me, Jeff Carter is a black hole. You pass the puck to him, and it never comes back.
Yeah.
A guy, they're not the same type of player, but Tim Kerr was like that, where he would get the puck, and that you would never get the puck back. Now, most of the time, he would score, and I don't think Carter's as good a scorer as Tim Kerr was in his prime. But that's the type of player that he is. And he is very streaky, but I've learned that a lot of premium goal scorers, especially wingers, are very streaky. Phil Kessel is a very streaky scorer. A number of top wingers are streaky scorers, and Carter just seems to fit in that. But I think the bigger key to tonight for LA is not the production of guys like Carter and Gaborik. It's going to be their defense, because I believe Willie Mitchell might be coming back tonight, but they have been without Mitchell and Robin Regeer for at least a few games. And they need veteran guys back there against the Hawks. And if they don't have them back, it's going to be really tough for them to beat them.
Yeah, I mean, they do. And they need John Quick to steal a game here. That's my thoughts. Josh, what are yours?
Yeah, I mean, John Quick, I think it comes down to goaltending tonight again. I know I say this all the time, but it's whoever's better between the pipes. Is it Crawford? Is it Quick? I don't know if you guys talked about Andrew Shaw not being available again tonight. He will be playing Game 3. Is what I was told. And yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to goaltending in this series, guys. Whoever the better goaltender is, wins it. And I believe that this series, unlike the other series, is going to be very low scoring. I think we could be set to see like a 1-0 or a 2-1 victory from one of the two teams. And I think that's going to happen throughout the series. Both teams, again, relying on their goalie to get the job done. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens tonight and seeing if Sutter and Quenneville and how they match each other up, match each other lines. I know they won't make the mistake like that other guy in Montreal did. Hey, Ak?
I hope not. I mean, that's not going to work for them. I know I got a lot of heat from that yesterday from people, but I mean, I thought my rants were justified. And now as we sit here, we can talk a little bit about Thomas Vanek, who is playing on the fourth line today, Mike, in practice.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much to read into it. It might just be some distraction or game playing by Michel Therrien, with the Montreal media to take the heat off or take the focus off the Tokarski being in goal situation.
He might suck. Continue, Mike.
Has the Montreal mayor come out yet with him too?
Yeah, I think that this move was made by the Montreal. Well, there's a bet between Jimmy Fallon and the Montreal stuffed animal, all right, as I call them, that if the Canadiens lose, that Fallon would have to wear a Canadiens jersey if the Rangers lose. I don't know what the side of the bet for the mascot for the Canadiens was.
I know I know what it is because I follow the Montreal mascot on Twitter. He's I don't. I'm just kidding. I heard it the other day. No, he's got to go around the town, around different famous parts of Montreal wearing a Rangers jersey. So.
Okay. Well, he better get his Vic Hatfield jersey sized, because I think that's going to be happening. But I think this is a little bit of a distraction. It's a little bit of chicanery going on here. I think Tokarski's probably going to start for the Habs in New York, and if they do move Vanek down to the fourth line, which I don't think they will, I think it would be pretty stupid because in spite of his lackadaisical nature in Game 2, he is one of their best forwards. He may not have both feet in Montreal, 1 foot maybe in Minnesota already, but I still think he's one of the better forwards.
Both feet are in Minnesota, guys.
Yeah. So you don't think that Therrien will do something stupid, Mike? That's what you're saying?
I don't think he'll do something that stupid, but according to some other people, he's done something equally as stupid already. But
man, oh man. All right, so that's going on. Yesterday, according to sources that I have, and it actually showed up today, so it's not much of a story, and then we will get to actually one of us who does break stories. But yesterday, who would that be? Who would that be, Josh? I'm not sure. Yesterday in Washington, Barry Trotz was seen at the Smithsonian looking at the Muppet exhibit, and Barry Trotz in Washington. This could, I firmly believe that this, of course, the Caps are a possibility, and of course, Ray, Shiro and Trotz go back together. We've talked about this. This makes sense, right? But I really still think that Trotz could be playing it a little bit here and waiting for that Pittsburgh job. And what we've seen already is, if the rumors are true, and I kind of in this case do believe they're true, that the Penguins didn't want Bilesma to go to the Caps. Now they're looking at a situation where the other guy that they could actually get as their coach is actually interviewed. If you're gonna get the Penguins' attention, apparently, go talk to the Caps, right, Josh?
Yeah, and something I heard yesterday, I don't know if there was anything to it, Ak, but I was told that maybe the Penguins held on to Bilesma just in case they can't get Trotz behind the bench, and that's their fallback plan, to hold on to Bilesma because they're not, too big on the other candidates that are available. Maybe that's what it is. What they did.
Funny, because sometimes the answer is the obvious one, and that is kind of the obvious answer, right? I mean, that's what you would do. We don't see that in the NHL. We have a big fight going on here in this game, by the way. Just for those checking in, and right now the score in this game.
Donnybrook.
It was a good Donnybrook. The score in this game, you can see a little replay of the fight here. That would be Mitchell, oddly enough. Mitchell and who's 15 on the? Or no, who's that? Okay, no, Mitchell and Andrew Shaw. So Willie Mitchell, who's returning tonight. That could be prophetic.
Shaw, who's not playing. I enjoyed the slapshot better. Watching the girl do the thigh master. That was more
Thanks. You guys
impressive.
check that out, huh?
There was no nudity. So
Oh, I know. It was just scarily
I was
close
hoping.
to nudity.
Yeah, me too.
I was
It was
hoping.
too dark. It was too dark actually to see any nudity. To be honest with
Yeah, that was just that was a decision I'm not going to do again. But yeah, every once in a while, not everything I do works, and that's one of them. But you know,
So we're not gonna see Youngblood and the Cynthia Gibb.
oh man, that
was amazing.
Mike, we're watching Youngblood tomorrow because that is Demi Moore, right? Is Demi Moore?
No, Cynthia Gibb.
Cynthia
Gibb.
Oh right, so, yeah, right. That's her finest role.
It's
her
her
only role.
here in Toronto, guys. I don't know if you're aware, but that movie was made in Toronto. Steve Thomas is in the movie. Peter Zezel's in the movie.
I knew Zezel.
Obviously,
the late Peter Zezel. The goaltender was a young Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
Wow.
Probably one of his first movies.
Yeah.
What was his name? What was the Youngblood character's name again?
Dean Youngblood.
No, Youngblood. His name was like, I know his last name was Youngblood. What was his first name?
Dean.
Dean.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Actually, you have the late Patrick Swayze's in that too, right?
Yeah.
Swayze and Zezel both not with us anymore.
Yeah. Never seen in the same room actually at the same time either. When they were alive. Very similar. But no, this what really my wife and I still use a quote from that movie, Youngblood, to this day. It was one of the first dates we had, and I showed her, I'm like, hey, let's watch this movie, Youngblood. It's a hockey movie or whatever. And there's the line where she says, it's just a game, Dean. It's just a game. And that line has been used, like, in our house so many times you wouldn't believe it. Like, when there's a hockey game on that the Flyers lose, or I'm pissed off about something or this, and my wife will come up to me and she'll be like, she'll put her arms to her side and and just say, it's just a game. It's just a game. She torments me with that line from that movie still to this day. It's 2-1, by the way. The Hawks are in the third period here. This is low scoring, actually, surprisingly. This game is low scoring here. Anyway, so yeah, that's Youngblood's tomorrow. Thanks for bringing that up, for sure. And there are some scenes in Youngblood, of course, but nothing as bad as in Slapshot.
Well, let me just go back to the Washington situation.
All right, Mike.
I've never heard.
To do Youngblood.
Yes, I've never heard anything so chaotic as this situation with Washington, where in terms of if they are interviewing Trotz, they're doing it without a general manager, which that would be the first thing that a general manager would be put in charge of, would be to hire a coach. So they're sort of doing things a little ass backwards here. Now, Nick Kypreos yesterday on Sportsnet reported that there is still talk about Wayne Gretzky in Washington, and that the leading candidate for the general manager's job under Gretzky would be former Columbus general manager Doug McLean, who is Kypreos's partner at Sportsnet. So I don't know. We got Shiro, we've got McLean, we've got a few other people. It's nuts.
And the funny thing with Gretzky, Mike, is that again, you have one network saying that Gretzky is talking to the Capitals, and you have another network saying that's not true.
Well, all I have to say to a Gretzky and McLean combo is, please. Hockey writers will pay for their salaries. Put them out. I'm telling you, that would be fun.
Who would be the head coach then? Mike Keenan?
No, John Tortorella.
No.
Oh, why the hell not? Mike Keenan is a perfect call.
No,
oh my God.
John Tortorella is the perfect fit for Doug McLean as a general manager.
No, Tortorella is your media relations coordinator.
How about Peter Bonner as the head coach?
Sure, throw Pierre McGuire in as the assistant GM. There you got
Scott Stevens.
Scott Stevens, I know. Well, Pierre McGuire is in the running for the Penguins job. That's been reported a little bit about the last couple of days, and we've talked about that before. But before we go there, before we go there, this game apparently is out of control now. Shaw scored a goal, so it's 3-1.
Who's not playing?
Yeah, Andy Phil's not playing, right?
So let's consider it 2-1 because Shaw doesn't.
Let's just call this game moot. But anyway, Josh.
Yes.
So far, since we've been doing this podcast, this is our 28th podcast. Okay.
Look at that.
And then we did a week of podcast before that'll never be seen.
Yeah.
That was just practicing.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah, believe me, it's a good idea. We got a lot better, and we still got a long way to go, but we got a lot better. So, but during this podcast, you've already broken a few really big time news stories, and I really appreciate that, and kind of, as a rumor guy myself, feel incredibly threatened by it. But Josh, Benning to Vancouver. This is your scoop from a couple days ago. Actually, a week ago, even you mentioned it. A couple days ago, you were sure about it.
But who's counting?
Well, you deserve credit here. So this was it's a big deal to get something like that. I know how hard it is to break things like that. So what are your thoughts on Benning?
Well, I was told a couple weeks ago that he was going to go for a second interview, and he was the guy that the Canucks were impressed with the most, and a guy that obviously there's a little bit of a connection between him and Trevor Linden, who both played together. And Benning was the impressive guy going forward, and I was told that he was going to get that job, that he was the front runner. They weren't talking to anybody else after they had a couple first interviews with a couple other guys, but it was Benning that impressed him the most. And but there was talk, and I think maybe this is why Vancouver reacted quickly. Maybe they backed up a Brinks truck to his house, but his name was mentioned as a possible replacement of Ray Shero in Pittsburgh, and I think Vancouver was probably worried a little bit about that, so maybe they threw him a little bit extra scratch to go to Vancouver. But I know the Canucks, that's the guy they targeted from the beginning. So I'm not at all surprised. I think it's time we see Jim Benning as a general manager. We see what's happened in Boston with all the success they've had, and Ray Shero's gotten a lot of credit, but Jim Benning obviously deserves some. So does former defenseman whose name is escaping me right now, who just interviewed in Washington last week, Sweeney. Don Sweeney.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see if, obviously Benning is now going to Vancouver. If by some chance Sweeney goes to Washington, you're losing two big guys in the front office of the Boston Bruins. Yeah, Chiarelli is a great general manager, but obviously he relies on those two guys and goes to them before he makes any moves, and the three of them discussed it along with Cam Neely. So I think it's a great move for Vancouver, bringing Jim Benning in. Definitely a better move than bringing in a guy who's a former NHL agent, not naming any names. But I think Benning's going to do well in Vancouver, guys. But I think what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to strip that team out, strip them down, and get rid of a lot of the guys that have been there for a long time. I don't know what's going to happen with the Sedins. That's going to be interesting to see. But Vancouver obviously has to do something. Whether they give up a lot of their youth, like a guy like Bo Horvath, who they just got and has been impressive in the Memorial Cup. Vancouver's going to have to decide whether they want to bring the younger crowd up or if they still want to go for it and trade those guys and try to maybe get some of these guys that are going to be available in the summer, because there's some big names, as we talked about, that are going to be available.
Oh, it's a really big name summer. Mike?
Well, one of the things that's interesting is who they'll hire as coach. If it is a rebuilding situation, I know that one possibility, and I know his name was mentioned in coaching circles as a former NHL coach, is Bruce Cassidy, who's coaching the Providence Bruins. I know that there's a WHL coach who I cannot remember the name. I think it's Mike Johnston. I think he is coaching one of the WHL franchises. It might be Portland. That he might be in the mix. But I think who they bring in as coach is going to be indicating what direction that team is going. If they go with a young coach, I think then more than likely the rebuilding situation is gonna go on. But I'll let Josh back in a second. I just want to mention this.
You're right, Josh.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I jammed my finger. Sorry.
Oh man.
One thing that is a possibility, and Kevin Paul DuPont, who's been a longtime writer in Boston, mentioned this yesterday, that the Benning to Vancouver situation opens up a lot of possibilities of trades between the Canucks and the Bruins, and we know that Alex Edler was talked about at the deadline last year after Seidenberg was hurt. Apparently, Brad Marchand is on the outs in Boston with his attitude off the ice, and I can't imagine Marchand leaving Boston.
I looked into this last summer because this was out there last summer too.
Yeah, he's such a prototypical Brewer, and I just cannot imagine him any place else, and especially not Vancouver. Although they'd have a den of vipers like Alex Burrows and a few other guys, so maybe he would fit in. But that Benning, an Edler or a Bieksa or some of these guys that they're potentially trading could likely or more likely go to Boston with the connection between Benning and Chiarelli. We'll see.
Yeah.
Guys, another name I've heard as a possible coaching candidate in Vancouver is assistant coach of the Dallas Stars, Willie Desjardins, who is a guy for a rebuilding team. So I think if Vancouver does go in that direction, we could see Willie Desjardins as the new head coach of the Vancouver Canucks. Willie, obviously, assistant coach of the Dallas Stars, and he's been a big part of the Team Canada, the younger under-18s. He's coached there a couple times, been an assistant coach. He's a young players coach, so I think we can look to him as a possible coaching candidate in Vancouver, especially if they are going with the youth movement.
I'll tell you another name I'm hearing mentioned too is and this is really early for this, and this guy will be a GM someway. We talked about him before, but is assistant GM Billy Zito from Columbus. Heard his name mentioned in Washington as well. He's got a long history with Leonsis and different things there, some players there as well. He's just, of course, he was an agent last year. He just took over as assistant GM in Columbus this year, but is one of those guys. It kind of reminds me of Chiarelli in the early days. That people are just like, okay, this guy's got it, the mindset, and whenever an agent leaves the agent business to become a GM, you have to ask yourself something. They are taking an unbelievable pay cut to do so. I mean, like assistant GMs, I don't know what they make, but it's not 1/20th or 1/50th of what a big agent will make in the NHL.
And that's why we'll never see Donnie Meehan as a GM.
Yeah.
He makes a fortune.
I mean, or Rich Winter, and why we never saw Rich Winter as a GM.
I mean, Brian Burke was an agent, and then he became a GM. So it's
what happens, and this is the case in I talked to Bill Zito about this a while ago, and this is the case with him is that he's what happens is these guys do make their money, and they have their families, and they are just, and what drives them is the chance to win a Stanley Cup, to be part of a team, to be part of that whole. I mean, when you're part of it, when you're an agent, you're always kind of fighting the teams. And to real hockey people, it's kind of a counterintuitive type thing.
Brian Lawton, John Ferguson Jr., two other guys that were agents.
Bite your tongue.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't a shot at the Leafs.
That's like a swear word in my house, Josh. No.
JFJ. No,
yeah, there you go. No, the funny thing is, in spite of the fact that Pat Brisson came out and said that he was not a candidate for the Penguins job, I read a couple things yesterday that said that the book was not closed on Brisson and Pittsburgh. So, and the Pittsburgh situation is interesting because not only do you have Tom Fitzgerald and you have Jason Botterill in Pittsburgh, two candidates. Brisson is apparently still in the mix. Julian Brisebois from Tampa Bay is another name that's being mentioned. And this is, and you still have the coach in place, so you really don't know, whether any of these candidates are going to want to keep Bylsma on as coach. So that situation is really unresolved.
It's ridiculous. Josh.
Yes, Pat Brisson. Let me go over this with you guys.
Yep.
He represents Patrick Kane, John Tavares, Jonathan Toews, Matt Duchene, Sidney Crosby, Malkin, Claude Giroux. There's a few. Tyler Myers, I know he represents.
Yeah,
go down the list. I mean, he's got between all the guys. I'm guessing he's got to be making $4 or $5 million a year from his.
He's making a ton of money. But again, I mean, there comes a point at which you've got enough money if you're these guys, and and you really want to be a part of a team as opposed to you want to go out there and you want to have wins and losses. It's like the whole idea of the up and down, the ebb and flow of life. It's something to that. And I've talked to a lot in the same way. These guys, they have that that desire to do that. And so when I see a guy like Zito or Lawton out there interviewing, you know, I think to myself, if you're a team, you know you're getting this guy not because he needs a job, but because of his passion for the sport, and in both cases, I know one of them went to Yale, but I think between Zito and Lawton, you're looking at big time. These are smart guys. They are really smart guys business-wise. They're smart guys hockey-wise. They're both hockey players. Lawton played, of course, in the NHL. And Zito ran a charity tournament last year and played with a bunch of NHLers as well. And then word came down that the guy can play hockey too, and he played at Yale. So these are hockey people, and
they're just tired of being Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, they're tired of doing it, and I can't blame them. It's really, and it's funny because at some point I wanted to have I'll have Zito on the show because he's a really interesting guy, and what really is cool about him too is that he literally said that when he became a GM, immediately other GMs who had always been terrible to him as an agent were his best friends, and like whatever I need, whatever you need kind of thing. So
wasn't Chiarelli an agent too?
I don't think so.
Someone told me he was.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure.
I'm going to Google it.
I'm pretty sure he wasn't. So I don't see Chiarelli as an agent, first off, and secondly, I'm almost positive. But he was. But we get these guys. Cheveldaev was another one you heard about for a long time that are going to be agents, going to be GMs. And Cheveldaev was assistant GM with the Hawks when they won their first cup. So
yeah, was a player agent.
Was a player
joining the Senators in 1999.
Whoa, I stand corrected. Interesting.
Agent lawyer. Yeah.
So the NHL, there's the NHL 15. We're talking video games for a second. The NHL 15 cover thing is going on right now, and I for one believe that there shouldn't be a vote this year. That Teemu Selanne should just be given this cover and call it a day. This is like, I'm a big fan that Teemu. I think that Teemu nearly does. As good as he is and as good as he was. And as much as success as he had, and no one was more dynamic than he was his first few years in the league, of course. But it's amazing that Teemu never won like the Lady Byng in the NHL, or certain awards that just completely epitomize what the guy's about. So I think NHL 15. That's my little thing. Get out there and vote for Teemu Selanne. I know people vote for their local players and stuff.
I think Rick Nash should be it. He deserves it. Yeah. Let me ask you, though. You're bringing up Selanne and his accolades and everything that he did. Do you guys think that, and I know they've said they'd never do this again, but do you think the NHL should waive the 3-year period into the Hall of Fame?
Ooh, interesting. No, not for Teemu.
Gretzky was the last one, right?
Yeah, there's, to me, that is reserved for those kind of guys. Teemu is, it's a great debate. I love talking about these things. It's one of my favorite things to discuss. It's a great one because, to me, it's the difference between star and superstar, right? So, what is a superstar in the NHL? And superstars are epic superstars. I don't call it. Some people have like superstars. I just have superstars: Gretzky or Ken Dryden. Patrick Waugh, Messier to a degree, but almost not. That's Lemieux.
Wendell Clark.
Right.
Oh, jeez.
Wayne Skordenski. Certain players that are just absolutely no. It's so funny.
But Selanne should be in that category, I think. He was a very popular player.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not slagging Teemu Selanne in any way. I think he's an all-time great. He'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt. I think he's if he's probably the top player that Finland produced. And I think that's arguable, but I would say that's probable. Matt Sundin was probably, him or Forsberg, the best that Sweden produced, and they didn't waive the 3-year period for him. So I think he'll wait the 3 years. I think the only guy right now playing that would have it waived would probably be Crosby if he wins a couple more Stanley Cups, and he is 28 years old right now. So there's a possibility if Pittsburgh gets things straightened out that he would be, he could be that type of mega star that would have the waiver placed on him.
Now you say arguably one of the best. I know you're referring to Yari Curry, but Yari Curry had Gretzky as a line mate.
Yeah.
Solani did not. Imagine Solani playing with Gretzky in his prime. Solani would have had quite a few.
I mean, it's almost unimaginable, or even like an Adam Oates or something. I mean, there's all kinds of players that would have been enormous if Timu had played with them. It's a tight call. Like, did they waive the period for Ray Bourque?
No.
See, because I put Timu in the Ray Bourque. What was that?
There was some talk, if I remember.
Yeah, there was.
People were throwing it out there.
They didn't waive for Mario.
Yeah, they did.
They did? Okay.
They waived it, and then Mario came back and played again.
Right.
Yes. That's what I forgot. Okay.
Right. Still to this day, one of the greatest games. If I were to list the most fun games I've ever watched on TV or in person, that first game that Mario came back. That was
against Toronto.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, even though it was Toronto, Mike, you have to say, I mean, that was such an unbelievable thing to be witnessing.
I don't have to say a thing, but no, I mean, don't get me wrong. He was an all-time player. It was great that he came back. I just wish he wouldn't have come back against the Leafs.
Yeah, I hear you. What's this we got here, Josh? Oh, there you go, Mario. Beautiful. It's a good one. I like that. Yeah, so
you selling that, Josh?
No. Why, you want it? I got a couple in my basement.
Nice. I think I would put Solani in the Bourque world, which is really close to this. But I think that I'm actually not necessarily a fan of waiving the thing at all. But I mean, I think that it's not. I get it. I mean, I get it, and it's so obvious that the guy's gonna be there. But then you get into these kind of debates because this is definitely okay. Timu's. I mean, obviously a Hall of Famer. There's no question about that.
That should be your next poll, Eck.
That's a good poll. I like that. I will do that.
Throw that out there.
I will.
See if people think that they should waive the 3-year period.
There's a really cool movie being put on right now too. I wanted to talk about briefly. I don't know if you guys saw this or not. I'm trying to look. I have it written down here. What it's called?
Youngblood.
Not Youngblood.
Sandlot 4.
No, it's shoot, I can't believe I did that.
Godzilla was good.
Godzilla, I heard is good.
Really good.
All right, so yeah, it looks fun. I mean, it was funny. I mean, my son is 10 or 9 and just getting into the whole thing of of superhero movies and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Godzilla is a little bit scary for him. It freaks me out, but what I'm waiting for is an Ultraman movie.
Ultraman.
Do you remember Ultraman, right?
Mike? I may have missed that one.
Josh, you don't remember Ultraman?
No, I don't. I'm ready for X-Men.
Yeah, out there right now are ripping you guys. Ultraman was awesome.
Ultraman.
I'm not saying he wasn't. I just don't remember him. I think I have a mental block about Ultraman. I remember Aquaman. I remember
Space Ghost from Saturday morning.
Space Ghost. That's a good one.
Yeah. I remember Space Ghost.
All right, so I'll get back to what I was talking about with the movie tomorrow because it is something I want to talk about. But
going a little far afield here today.
Yeah, here's a funny story. Now, not funny story, but the Las Vegas Wranglers are going to not be able to play next year because they don't have a venue. If you guys remember, this is where Ilya Bryzgalov's season started.
Yeah.
The Las Vegas Wranglers.
All down there from there.
They can't.
I know.
Wait a second. Las Vegas is potentially a place where an NHL franchise is going to go, but they don't have an arena to play.
With plans for new home ice melted, the Las Vegas Wranglers announced Tuesday they will take a season off, slating a return to play for the 2015-16 season.
Wow, what happens to all the players?
I know. The team said the Board of Governors for the league, this is the ECHL, granted a voluntary suspension guaranteeing the Wranglers play in this season after 2015. What does happen to the players? That's a really good question. I'm looking on here.
Well, if you remember...
Not just a pretty face, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Far from it. Actually, Josh, you missed. We had Buzz the dog on a couple days ago, and I thought it was you for a second.
I know. I watched it. Thank you very much. I saw it.
That was scary.
No, if you remember, the San Francisco Bulls of the ECHL, they folded during the season, and I believe their contracts were distributed throughout the rest of the league. So it might be a situation like that, or the parent the parent club is responsible for finding homes for those players. I know that
I know. You gotta love this. Like I'm reading the Fox 5 Vegas story. Okay, so the guy who writes this, this is news in Vegas. Your hockey team's not playing next year. You would it's like 4 paragraphs long, but you would think that the question would be asked, like that of well, what the heck happens to the players? But nowhere in this article is it addressed. None.
They will become pit bosses at the Riviera Casino.
Right. That's too much. I'm with you. That's just hilarious. Anyway, so that's that. But there's stay tuned tomorrow where I will talk about a really cool movie that's coming out. It's in the Cannes Film Festival right now, and that's a little teaser. How about that? Getting professional here with teasers.
Goon 2?
For sure. All right, guys.
They're working on the script right now for that, by the way. Goon 2. Did you see the first one?
Yes.
Great movie.
Starring the voice of 24/7 Liev Schreiber.
Goon.
Oh, Goon? I know.
Oh, yeah. Jay Baruchel, Sean William Scott.
My buddy Kim
Liev
Coates.
Schreiber. Yeah, it's a good, pretty decent movie.
Yeah. They're working on the second Goon right now, actually. The script, they're going to... excuse me, they're going to start filming in August before camps because they're going to be using a lot of hockey players. Word on the street is a lot of NHL players want to be in this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
That would make some sense. I mean,
last year George Laraque was in it. The last
yeah,
one.
that's right. Oh, jeez. Yeah. Did you guys see? By the way, I wanted to ask you this. Did you guys see the Brandon Proust attempted hit on Henry Lundqvist in this? Did you see that?
Yes. Yeah, and just by happenstance, the Montreal media didn't say a thing about that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it wasn't mentioned.
No. But no, I was gonna make a reference that the LA Kings should do a Chris Kreider on Corey Crawford. If they wanted to even up the series, but it was strange. The Kreider incident went from an accident to basically an assassination within 24 hours. And Brandon Proust is a former Ranger, a former teammate of Lundqvist, and if you watch the replay of that, he just sort of just keeps going, and tries to take out his knee. I mean, I don't think it was a serious attempt, but I think it should draw as much scorn and ridicule as Kreider.
No, I don't know. I mean, it was pretty weak. I mean, for all we know, this is like you said, they're ex-teammates, and he could have just been joking. I mean, this is a TV timeout. He's skating over to him. He could have just been saying something like, you're looking fat in there or something. I don't know. He could have said anything to him because it was a really, he did not go after him necessarily. I mean, did you see it, Josh?
Yeah, I did. Obviously, he's thinking that he's going to, try to do what Kreider did to Carey Price. I mean,
no,
really,
but it's he's just skating over. It's not anything like that. I mean, it's not like it's not. I mean, Kreider's thing was during the game. This was more, and it's not like he went. He sort of leaned towards him, and you could tell that Lundqvist wanted nothing to do with it. But it wasn't like he continued or anything like that.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure Terry had told his players, if they get the opportunity, don't stop.
Well, it's one of those plays. It's not a bad play for Proust to do because at the time the crowd's kind of quiet, and if he just even as much as bumps Lundqvist a little bit, the whole that could throw Lundqvist off. But it was not an attempt to injure or anything like that. It was nothing like he wasn't going to get hurt. All right, guys, that's about all the time we have for today. I'm replaying this game as well without Andrew Shaw, just because I didn't want to have to do it later. And for those of you watching at home, the simulation is still the Hawks are up 3-2 late in the game, and or it's 3-3 actually maybe. But anyway, that's all the time we have for today. Remember, without the buzz,
it's just hockey.
I can't unsee that. See ya.